All right, happy Thursday or Friday morning, wherever you are. Welcome to our joint webinar between TopLeft and CloudRadial. And so having a discussion with Ross from First Focus in Australia, how they scaled transparency, their client experience. And so yeah, tips, practical things to help you as well to scale that for your team and your clients. And so this is being recorded and all the usual things. You can pop questions in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll integrate those or get to them at the end. Yeah, technical account management can be really messy. So we're going to get into how to streamline that and make it effective for your company and your clients. So I'm joined today. So sorry, my name is Wim, founder of TopLeft and two MSPs here in Canada. And I'm joined by Ricky, VP Product at CloudRadial. Welcome, Ricky.
Thank you.
And it's been there several years, as you can read. And then Ross, who's the CEO of First Focus. Welcome, Ross.
Hey, Wim.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
And very good to have you, both of you. So looking forward to this conversation. So I'm going to stop sharing because this will be more of just totally a discussion. So let's go back and actually, yeah, Ross, maybe you're going to speak a bit about First Focus and introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll get into your journey where you started.
Yeah, sure. So, so it's probably one of the larger MSPs in Australia now. We're sort of up at over 300 staff, and there's a bunch of challenges that that come along with that. And one of the things that we had to spend a bunch of time doing as we really sort of got into that 150, 200 staff size is you really have to start paying a lot more attention to how you're delivering a consistent experience, because it's a lot harder to, hey, just get running a room and say, guys, been doing this as of Monday. And yeah, that consistent client experience at scale meant we had to start thinking about things a little differently. And one of the first things we did was actually, and I encourage everyone to do this, actually engage an external agency to go and poll your customers. So we engaged someone like an NPS certified organization to go and actually do phone-based surveys of our customers. They randomly did about 200, and you get a very different insight to when you just do the email out, hey, how do you like us 0 to 10? And it was both eye-opening and enlightening. So yeah, some really big things came out of that, and we already knew we wanted to do a few different things in this space, but it really reinforced some stuff we already knew, but also kind of brought us to the two big points. Just about every customer, whether they liked us or they didn't like us, or they're unhappy with us, they said two big things, right? One thing is we're either awesome at communication and being really fast, or we need to communicate better and be faster. And so those two things were just so widespread in terms of communication and being sort of fast, efficient, prompt. That were the two big themes that came out of it. And yeah, we went on this journey of building this kind of digital experience around those two things, about how do we communicate, just like if we can be the best at communication, like clearly it's what everyone wants, and how do we just be as fast as possible in everything that we do. So yeah, so from there, I guess we'd been looking at CloudRadial for a while. We'd already used a different product before that, and we took the first that we committed to CloudRadial and put a person on it. Like we knew it was going to be a fairly big project to implement, and I know we'll probably chat about that a bit more. But yeah. But at the same time, so that was to do things like we were already using some ticket-based portal stuff, but obviously there's a lot more stuff that CloudRadial could do, and specifically to empower our key contacts that were increasingly technical in nature. More and more IT managers across our customer base and things like that. So brought to bring more and more information to their fingertips. But at the same time, we were looking at a lot of the things coming back weren't just about, people often focus on tickets. And service desk. And the reality is that's only a portion of what MSP does. It's a very visible bit, but there's a whole bunch more than that around projects, around account management, that we're seeing. Those are the three big things: service desk, project management, account management. Feedback from customers was actually pretty spread across all those three. And too often, I think when we talk about customer satisfaction, we're thinking of the CSAT on a ticket, like the customer, the sort of individual ticket response, not overall health of relationship, not how the project go. And we know if a project goes bad, I mean, Wim, if a project goes bad, the customer remembers that for 2 years, right? It's not just like a ticket where hopefully by next week you've resolved that thing, right? So projects and account management were high on our list as well, and that's how we ended up with TopLeft. So bringing those two things together.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the things that we've talked about, I've talked to the person who administers F-Connect, which I want to talk about the branding of that as well in a moment.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you really have to kind of approach it. I'm glad you brought that up. We've talked about this. I mean, full disclosure to those joining us in the webinar, we kind of had a discussion of like, where do you begin? And when we were talking to Ross in the first place, we were saying like, how do you know you have a need for either one of these things? Or how do you know you want to step up your stuff? And I think I'll say statistics just that we're seeing in our own client base. I think a lot of MSPs suffer from that because we've seen discussions, and I mean, I personally speak for myself. I've seen discussions in peer groups of people that have that tendency to correlate service desk with client satisfaction. But a lot of times when you ask an MSP, you say, hey, what's your CSAT on average? And typically 95%, 98%, whatever, but churn of clients still happens. So it is super important, and it's really interesting understanding like how do you holistically look at your projects, your frequency of communication. Again, even the branding. I'm really big on branding stuff myself. And again, beforehand, right, before you kind of brought these two connections with TopLeft and CloudRadial, were you already branding too, or was that a new initiative as well to kind of say, hey, this is our client-facing front?
Yeah, so the F-Connect name already existed. We, as a version 1 product, and we were using we were using Desk Director. I mean, I think we can talk about it at the time, and it was a good product. It allowed customers to log tickets. We could do some very basic stuff back and forth. And we already had used the F-Connect name, and so this is actually really good because we could actually now talk. This is not a new product. This was just F-Connect 2.0, right? And so from a customer perspective, they don't know that there's a bunch of products that sit behind it. It's just the latest version of our app. And hey, we're bringing all this functionality, and we've got our own roadmap of what we want to bring to you, and almost turning us. We've been doing this a lot, not just in this area, almost considering bringing a lot of that SaaS, kind of methodology into how we run and how we communicate, because I'll be honest, you guys do a way better job of branding than MSPs do, right? Like in general, like software companies do a lot better job of branding, pricing, packaging, all that kind of stuff. Doing a demo up front, all these kind of little things we've been trying to integrate into our sales cycle and methodology. So, but the branding of it, really important. We are allowing customers to actually, our larger customers to actually sometimes rebrand themselves, that as well. And the obviously CloudRadial does allow you to do that. And so we even have a couple of customers that have their own custom version of F-Connect, then branded for themselves as well.
I always find it really interesting how, we're going to talk about this as well, probably as a general rule of like, just what does adoption look like? What does success look like? What's acceptable versus what's not acceptable? And you'd be surprised how much people care when they see their own name and their own logo up there. It's suddenly all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's my thing. And again, I know how good of a job First Focus has done in focusing on that. So yes, there's the technical aspect of setting up things like this, but when someone logs in and you're talking to, like you were saying, have you seen that big shift from like, your point of contact before, more co-managed, more technical stuff? They kind of expect a certain level of professionalism, of brandiness, of intuitive, software. So first of all, just general kudos that you guys have done a great job with that. And then second of all, I mean, did you notice that when you started rolling things out, I'll speak for CloudRadial specifically, I mean, did you approach it one module at a time? Did you say, okay, we want to get our ticket set up first, and then we'll deal with, how do you even approach something that frankly is difficult to implement start to finish?
Yeah, look, we the very basics was replicate what was in Desk Director, and because what you don't want to do when you release a 2.0 something is take a feature away. And so the very minimum is, okay, we need to get to parity. And on day one, we also want to make sure we add 2 or 3 things as well. We want to actually be able to launch this not just with a hey, it looks different but does the same. But we actually wanted to launch it as a looks different and hey, here's this cool stuff. And one of the other things that we wanted to launch on day one was we integrated Thread as well. So so got another vendor sort of plugging in hidden in some ways to the customer that's a different product because it's all part of F-Connect. So we had these few things we wanted to launch on day one, but we also wanted to go with a 12-month roadmap to the customer to say, here's what we're launching and this is what's coming. And you said you've been talking to, you talk a lot to Nicole on our side who heads this up, and
Right.
putting her in that role of not head of platforms, head of systems, but she's head of digital experience. And so putting someone in a role that is there, and she's got a great mind and eye for the experience, both staff experience and client experience. And we switched our whole internal IT department around so that she runs the IT team, not the other way around. So we actually have a customer experience person running IT for ourselves and running the systems for ourselves. And so everything we do is with that lens, and that having the right person run the project. And she reported directly to me during that project as well. So there's that big push down from the top.
Yeah. And I'll even do a little handoff too to Wim for projects specifically, right? So when at that point, you obviously had the CloudRadial portal. At what stage did you say, okay, like obviously we realize, a lot of people use CloudRadial for ticketing, but obviously project management is a whole other beast, and that is a whole different way to gauge a relationship. So what did it look like before? And like, how did you know you're like, okay, I'm looking for something to visualize it to make it easier to grasp? I mean, how do you approach that?
As far as the CloudRadial, like when did we get into the CloudRadial integration?
Well, I'm saying like, if somebody is watching this and they're wondering, like, I think it's something that a lot of people are aware of, especially I'll say even during COVID when, before that time, and then obviously when it first started, we saw a lot of people shift from working in office, and then it kind of got scrambled. Everyone was from home. So a lot of MSPs, this isn't something that's specific to a region, saw the technicians in office potentially, right? And then just disappeared, right? The work was still getting done, but the visibility was gone. And that again happened from the service side to the project side to the consultation side. All of a sudden it was like we assume we're paying, from hundreds to thousands or tens of thousands of insert your currency here per month. How do I know I'm getting that? And again, with projects, it's especially important because there's the communication, there's the efficacy of the project, there's the stages. So I'm saying, how do you even manage that before a TopLeft? Like, what could that look like today? And in Roska's case, like, what were you doing before for projects that people said, like, yeah, we'd like a little bit clearer? I mean, how did you know you needed a TopLeft to visualize that stuff?
Yeah, for us, the story, obviously with COVID, there was a bigger pressure. We actually got a lot more calls during that time. We signed up more clients during that time because remote, especially for service teams, they're not in
Yeah.
the office and they're like, what's going on with our tickets? But my story is I started this back in my MSP because we were struggling. We had the project module, I had all the billing, everything set up in ConnectWise, and we're dropping the ball on projects, taking on too much. Signing up these clients, wonderful projects, selling it, and then not being able to execute on it. Just overwhelmed, not sure where things are at. 1,000 tickets literally in a backlog, tickets like a couple years old, and dropping the ball, and we lost clients. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And I had another company at the time, which I've exited in the meantime, but we were doing a custom software, or not custom, we were a software company using Scrum and Agile methods with Jira. And that was peaceful and was calm. We're just getting stuff done every day and prioritize that backlog, pull it through in our sprints, doing it. And I'm like, how can I get that kind of culture, that feeling in the MSP with operations and project? You got mixed engineers, technicians, like people doing service and project. That's a big challenge, which many MSPs struggle with today. And yeah, looked at other tools. Could we integrate with ConnectWise? Nothing did. Even today, nothing does. So we built it. And still today, every day, every week, talking to MSPs with that same struggle as we got the data, we can bill it, we can sell it, but we can't see it when we deliver it. And get a lot of stories from everyone that they're busy, but we can't see what they're busy with.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a story there. And yeah, pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, it's the same thing. It hasn't fundamentally, it's not that much different. It's the same challenge. Productivity, prioritization, communication. So the Kanban boards are a great way to visualize that and have those conversations between project managers, the client, the account managers, the people doing the work, the sales team, get everyone on the same page. And again, I did a couple demos yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind of these sometimes larger MSPs. When every team, one team's using Slack, another one's using Microsoft Planner, another one uses Microsoft Planner, but in a completely different way. Some are just in ConnectWise, some are just in email, and they want to standardize. Like, how can you get a consistent client experience when everyone's doing it a different way?
Right. Or even, I mean, I think for both of you, again, full disclosure, I myself, with CloudRadial, I've never been at an MSP. I worked at an in-house IT company, but that challenge I see pop up over and over again is, what if an MSP wants to change stack, right? And they want to change tools. They want to plug things that they think are better or more effective or more cost efficient, whatever. And I think the issue that I think this is universal, it's not just us. It's if that wrecks your client experience, right? If pulling out one piece completely changes everything, it can be tough. So I think the reason that a lot of these tools kind of focus on, like F-Connect 2.0 is a good idea, because again, you're still keeping the brand, you're keeping the experience, even though you can change things and kind of have the behaviors be the same, right? And I think you both personally have insights into why that's important. And I don't think a lot of MSPs do enough for branding. I know there's a lot of talking of marketing and whatnot, but I think that's one of the core things that is not that difficult to do and really effective long run. And in that realm, let's talk about when you start with something like this. So again, there's setup to both systems. One of the things that I want to target this specifically to Ross is, where do you go to even begin talking about adoption? Like when you talk to your clients and you say like, hey, we've got this system. I mean, one of the big, the S word that we hear all the time, I guess two S's, is self-service. I mean, is that something that you lead with, going like, hey, this is what you want? Or how do you pitch it to your client? Think this is the better way?
Yeah, it's interesting because adoption has two components. Generally, you've got the internal and external, and you need both to work really well, because you're generally going to be asking your staff to do something different. And that you can do with, training and meetings, and you can change internal processes and stuff. But when you're actually trying to get your clients to adopt something, you don't have as much control or as much ability to go in and even meet with everybody, because you're going through a key contact or something like that. It becomes even harder. So it's a couple of principles that we always follow. And one, and again, this is why a big advantage to us of one, CloudRadial, but also being able to get things like TopLeft and Fred into it, is because you don't want to give someone, you don't want to be difficult with someone. Like, people are very lazy. They don't want to go and log into 3 different things. They don't even, use the example, like, they don't even want to scroll down, right? Like the button has to be right in the middle of the screen, right? And so getting stuff where people already are is a huge advantage. And that's why for us, rolling this out as a Teams app, like majority of our customers are already in Teams. And so if we can get the IT information, the self-service, the tickets, get all that where they already are, we've already ticked off a huge barrier, right? And so we talk about there's a technology acceptance, technology adoption model that we always refer to, and it talks about 2 big things. And one is the ease of use, or perceived ease of use, and then the perceived benefit from that, right? Like, is there a perceived, am I going to get something out of this? And so you need to be able to very quickly give the customer a win, because they're not going to try it too many times if they don't get value. They're going to give up really quickly. And so it has to be easy to use, and they got to get a return really quick. And so things like I said, when we did launch, that's why we said when we launch, we actually got to make sure this has to be impressive enough that people come back.
Yeah.
And so then there's as you said, there's the branding and marketing bits around it. We've got some little 40-second snippet videos that we built, that we did on little sections of stuff. We've got the 1-page flyers that we send out. We've got all these kind of it's more than just launch and done. It's launch and then repeat, and to get people using it. And it does take time to build up, but now, from we're 2 years on almost from a launch of both CloudRadial and TopLeft. And I can tell you now, in the next, update we're going to send out, we're still going to be reminding people. And remember, instead of contacting your account manager, make sure you email TAM at First Focus. Go to go to F-Connect and use your account management board. Like, we're still having to go, remember, do this. And hey, did you know you could do this? Like, it's nonstop. It's constant.
I'm going to ask you the most easy question that really shouldn't even be asked, but I want to say it because most people still ask it themselves. Is it easier to train new clients on that or existing ones?
Absolutely. New clients are so easy in comparison, right? Trying to change existing behavior is the hardest of all.
Yeah.
We get huge adoption of new clients. And to be honest, even in the sales process, we're talking about this stuff because it's now like, for us, this is actually a differentiator, right? It's something that we actually show and demo in that first meeting with a prospect, right? So we actually, F-Connect is part of our pitch. And so, that's part of what they're buying. And so with a new customer, yeah, they're excited about it. They want to do it. Day one, we're training staff. Absolutely getting much, much better adoption from day one. We've started bringing that same discipline to when a key contact changes in our customer base. And because that, I think, tends to be overlooked a little bit, that, hey, the IT manager or CFO or operations manager, whoever is it that's our key contact in the customer, if they get replaced and then there's now a new person, like they starting from zero. Like they don't know us at all. And I think we've got a much better process now at essentially reselling us to them. And so that it gives you a really good opportunity again to educate during that process as well.
Yeah. I want to backtrack for a second because I actually saw a Q&A question from Nathan. And I think this was in regards to the original question of when you first did the survey, when you hired the third party. He was saying, when you did that survey and you try to figure out the state of everything, was that aimed specifically at decision makers or was that at multiple people across the organization? Like, do you know the details of who they talked to figure out how easy it was to work with you?
Yeah, so that specifically was, not just our key contact, but especially for larger customers, we gave them a number of contacts that would be key stakeholders or decision makers within that business. But yeah, this was specifically not targeting end users because ultimately end users don't decide whether we stay their IT provider or not, right? And so this was really about getting to the people that were deciding whether we were their MSP or not. And yeah, so it was predominantly our key contacts and other senior stakeholders.
Yeah, which again, I'll speak as a general rule. If you're trying to adopt pretty much anything, focus on that strategy. Don't try to bother with the intern or the brand new person. Like, they have no stake, and also it's just a lot of effort. So if you can just fire your efforts on, like Ross was saying, the people that really matter, that pay the bills and everything that you need to impress, and they get it. Traditionally, what we see as well is they will be the ones that disseminate it downwards. If they see a value in it and they think, again, the portal, the projects, whatever have you, is valuable, they can see it. They're going to let their people know, and they're going to have that internal advocacy is like a big thing to get stuff like this pushed out. Because again, I'll speak for CloudRadial specifically. TopLeft is far easier. CloudRadial is kind of a beast to push out if you try to do the whole thing, which is why these strategies and everything come into play, right? We talk about it and like, is it worth it? Absolutely. There's not really a doubt, but where do you begin? It's kind of taking the bites, right? Just figuring out where you start, who you target, and all the other stuff. So that's really good insight as well.
Yeah, and so we even separate. We talk about end user experience and key contact experience as two separate things now.
Sure.
And you have to do both, right? If the service desk and that kind of, the end users aren't getting a good experience, well, that's also going to flow up to that key contact as well. But you got to handle end user experience. But yeah, we definitely think of key contact experience as something different, and they do want something different from us than the end users.
Absolutely. All right, let me cycle through my other list of stuff. If you have anything, Wim, otherwise I
asked a wonderful question. I was on mute there, so
yeah,
it was a really good question. But no, your technical account managers, you call them the TAMs. I think you've got like 20 to 30 of them.
Yeah, it would be in the 20s. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what were they doing before, and what are they doing now?
Yeah, so this was one of the big. It's interesting because probably one of the more unusual entries into using TopLeft, right? But our first use case that we wanted to actually solve here was the TAMs, and the TAMs were talking to they talk to our customers all the time. on stuff that wasn't a service ticket and wasn't a project, right? And so the question is, where does this stuff live at the moment? And it often lived in inboxes. It lived in maybe never mind, yeah, that's right. It lived in a to-do list, maybe. Some of them had gone and taken great initiative and set up a planner board and shared it with the customer, they'd done things, right? That's not manageable, that's not scalable. But then we could never have gone to them and said, right, TAMs, you all have to use tickets from now on. And every time you have a customer, they have to log a ticket. Like, that was never going to fly, right? You're trying to get any sort of salespeople using tickets, it's just not going to work. So we looked at all the VCO tools that were out there, and they were all built around QBRs and roadmap and that kind of stuff, which, well, maybe that's a different webinar, but I think the QBR is dead. We don't really do QBRs anymore. What we want to do is we want to work in real time with our customers, but we need that in a place that's consistent, centralized. Someone else can, the manager of that team can see what's going on. We know what if something's not done. It's exactly the same discipline that happens in every other team. And so one of the things that seemed to be working the best was those TAMs that had set up planner boards with their customers, and hence could TopLeft work for this? That's the only thing I know of. In the back of my head, I'm like, I know of this product, TopLeft. It does kind of like this for ConnectWise. I'm like, I wonder if this could work for account management, and that's what started the conversation. So we've gone from account managers working out of inboxes and to-do lists and Notepad and whatever, to customers and TAMs interacting via a Kanban board that's presented within F-Connect, and that's how account management occurs. And the good thing now is, behind the scenes, those things are actually tickets, right? And so you can do all the sort of stuff that you want to do with tickets in terms of making sure things are moving, things not being touched. But when that TAM's not there for the day, and someone else needs to step in, like we kind of work now with we've gone even since then, we've moved to like a TAM pairing kind of model, or even better, because now we couldn't have done that before. Whereas now, everything's on that board, and customers can update the board, TAMs can update the board. But yeah, behind the scenes, we've got all the benefits of them being tickets.
Yeah. Would this be a good spot to show a bit of TopLeft from the demo environment and how it embeds into CloudRadial?
I think this is a good spot because it's always hard to visualize it if you've never seen it. Let's take a look.
Yeah. I'm going to change our screen layout here. Sorry, my backstage controls are not behaving. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we're looking at the project manager.
Yep. So yeah, here's a board with a swim lane by project manager. So I'm gonna, like you've seen with maybe a planner board or Trello or other tools, the familiar Kanban-like layout, cards on a board. So this is what I think a TAM would look at in your team, maybe a swim lane by company, and see how each
by company, yep.
Yeah. And see service, project tickets, any quoting requests, pre-sales engineering. Okay, yeah, people aren't seeing it. Let me go. Sorry. Okay, there we go. There we go. Now we're golden. Thank you. And yeah, again, you can drag and drop all those things. So this is what your TAMs, your engineers would work from, coordinators, managers. And then when we go into CloudRadial, the client is in here. They'll see a list of their projects. And so here's an Office 365 migration project, a typical MSP kind of project. They can click on that and they'll see the project with all the phases and the tickets. So they can click into any ticket, see the notes on there. They could update it with a question, and it'll save it to the ticket and email the people on the ticket. So a great way to interact. This is what you see, right?
Yeah, and for I think we even allow them within a project to enter like an issue ticket against the project as well. For me, they can actually create a ticket. We don't let them do that on certain boards, but on in a project we do, and on the account management board that we do as well. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. I'm not going to do a whole show and tell, but yeah, what are the, just from the visuals, what has helped your team to manage their work and see what's important from the Kanban visualization in TopLeft?
Yeah, I see questions come through just asking which PSA we're using, and for us we're ConnectWise, but the functionality is pretty similar, right, Wim? From other with your ConnectWise or Autotask or even Halo now, is it?
Yeah, Halo's out. It's in beta, so people can try that out. But we've had Autotask support for over 5 years as well.
Yeah, so our TAMs especially, our TAMs pretty much solely work from here. Our project engineers and are still a bit of a mix there. A lot of them are still working out of the ConnectWise or other things. And so for us, the big push was actually from using the client-facing part of TopLeft as so much as the internal part. But TAMs 100%. The TAM comes in, they've got their board on it. That's how they work day to day, and they can see what's new, what's with them. They can move it to with the customer. The customer can move it back to with them. So they can interact on that board really well, and use that sort of flagging and the alerts and the coloring, all that kind of stuff to kind of look at what needs action, and it's really good. And I said for us, we have a sort of pod structure, but it means the general manager of that pod, they might have 3-4 TAMs in that pod. They can come in and they can just at a glance see stuff that needs to move for those customers and stuff as well. So it's been a really good way of working for the TAMs, and is it really good because the customer gets exactly the same view as well, and that transparency and ability to kind of go, well, we're part of the same team here. Like we're your IT department. Like it's not about having a bunch of stuff that's hidden behind the scenes. Like we want to actually make sure that we're all working off the same page.
Yeah. Yeah, we did the webinar with another client, Kevin, a few weeks ago, a joint webinar with ScopeStack, talking about sort of execution, and he talks about living in the open, right? No secrets, and if you mess up, it's there, but we deal with it and have a conversation, and you build a lot more trust that way.
Yeah, we use ScopeStack as well, and another good product.
Okay, yeah, and yeah, from here you can jump in and dispatch, update notes, schedule tickets, time entry. So people can do the majority of their work right out of TopLeft. Yeah.
I got to ask, I mean, obviously for both of you, I mean, having implemented this kind of stuff, and for us, did the homework, right? Knew what was going after. Today, do you feel like your clients are happier? Do they like it? Do they like the collaboration much better? I mean, do they appreciate the work you've put in since like 2 years ago? Is it something that's evolved a lot?
Yeah, look, and since that initial survey, we have gone back and done one more round, and we're due to do another round very soon. And so what we saw in the last round was it does take a long time to change sentiment, but the comments coming through and the feedback we're getting was, that this stuff was having an impact and people were getting value from it. Like you said, new customers, getting that compared to existing, because existing have the long memory of what came before. I'm really fascinated to see now, once we do it again, and it's now been 2 years, what will come through this time. But I think it's one of those things that if you took it away today, people are like, but how do I do all this stuff now? It's one of those things that just becomes part of it. And I think makes it our relationship to our customers stickier, because they're not going to get some of this stuff if they go somewhere else. And you get to the point of kind of like what I said with moving Desk Director to CloudRadial. Like you're not going to replace something with something else unless it does at least that and more. And I think it's the same with MSP. If you're not going to go to another MSP if I'm going to lose a bunch of things and I'm going to get less stuff, right? And so it just raises the bar in terms of what expectations are. This is what an MSP should be delivering.
Yeah, selfishly, we see that a lot. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like once it's out of the bag, it's hard to. The example I typically give, because I think this is, again, global pretty easy. It's like online banking, weirdly enough. Could you get all your statements mailed to you, and could that eventually fill the same gap as looking on an app? Sure. But I promise you, if you were to remove that functionality where Visibility was now manual, right? You had to either ask for it or call someone or whatever. And this is just talking about a statement, right? We're talking about infrastructure, projects, tickets, like you name it, right? Not being able to see this stuff makes it really difficult. And this is something that I always encourage MSPs to even talk to their clients about. If they're discussing it or whatever, if somebody says, well, so-and-so came in for maybe a lower seat cost and seems cheaper, and they have that as discussions, encourage them to talk about stuff like this, going like, how do you know? What are you going to see? What do you like? What do you get with it? And have them ask those questions as well, because I think F-Connect does a really good job of differentiating on that as well, going like, this is part of the brand. This is, again, you're basically treating an MSP as a SaaS company, going full visibility, online access whenever you want. Ta-da. Why would you want to?
And constantly thinking about what next. I mean, just, mentioning scope stack was a good example. Like on our list inside internally in the business is, how do we get their scopes there? How do we get to thing where it says scopes, and they can, because that's another thing where today really lives in an inbox of the key contact. We send the scope to them, right? And so we keep coming to these other things about, okay, how do we integrate that? How do we bring that in? How could we, and so I think we're just going to keep trying to tick those things off, and yeah, really get to a point where we're delivering service as software. And through self-service ticketing and self-service project manager, all this kind of stuff, we are, I think, getting towards that, especially now when we're bringing peer in and other things of, we've been using that for a few years now as well. And so, we do have self-service tickets. We have over 30% of our tickets being logged through CloudRadial. So, it's, I think it's a reality. It's something we've always talked about. We talked about when portals have been around forever, right? But now I think they're becoming invaluable. And you can really build a product around it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was just, I'd love to see more of the self-service. Maybe Ricky, you can give us a quick demo of what's in CloudRadial.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Give a quick look for those that haven't seen it and give you an idea of what we're working with. I'll see precariously. I'll see if this works. I hope it does. You guys are pretty good about talking about it. Can you see my screen? You should see a lot of colors and text on screen, right? Big old client portal. Is that visible? Hopefully.
Not yet. I don't think so.
Nope. Dang it. Tried so hard.
Let me.
Number 2.
Share
that. Still nothing?
That comes to Wim and I don't think it goes to.
There we go. Yeah.
There we go. Everyone can see it now. I know you can. It's had a big pop-up that everyone can see it. So why would I not believe?
There we go.
All right. So again, this is not really a demo. This is just a high-level view. And I'm not a sales guy, which is probably to the benefit of everybody on this call. And I always say, I think something like this is something you could technically do with whatever. So I always try to walk away going like, I think the messages we take away, especially from the story that you hear from Ross and from Wim, is like the idea of visibility is more important than the products themselves, my personal opinion. So take this away. I mean, for CloudRadial, what we saw is what value do you add on top of a portal? Because chances are, if you ever looked at like PSAs and stuff, they have a built-in portal. So it's not really just about having a ticketing portal or whatever. It's, does it add value? Does it have visibility? And I also want to come back to this when I'm done with my bit, is I think the way that Ross deploys First Focus F-Connect deploys their portal is really interesting, because they didn't go with, we have a portal, ta-da, right? Your Teams thing within, you've got Thread and then CloudRadial and then everything, and it works really well as a client experience altogether, is part of the magic for it. But I'll stop cutting myself off. The gist is, you've got fundamentally a lot of different players in the space of your end users. They need somewhere to go, right? So what we're looking at here is like a basic user experience, right? And traditionally, a basic user would probably just need, see their tickets, submit tickets, do some training, and get some documentation. Now, again, CloudRadial does not claim to be the end-all be-all of these things. So typically our model is we show those things ourselves. And then if there is a vendor that can do it better, we import that stuff in. Again, TopLeft is a perfect example. It's like we pull in projects, but our stuff is purposely really basic. With TopLeft, and you can get the view in there and you can see it and you can collaborate. That's a much better experience. So again, end users, super simple. If I want to go say request service, probably one of our more popular features ever is just like onboarding and offboarding forms, but you name it, right? Having the ability to take forms, make them super simple, put them in front of a client, nice and visual, connected to, we do ConnectWise and Autotask and BMS and Synchro and Halo and even email connectors. Have that data come in structured, and that just saves text time. So that's nice. Again, the additional features like training and whatnot are cool for client adoption, client engagement. But the stuff that really matters, I think, like we were discussing earlier too, like the decision makers, the point of context and stuff is not going to be, is there a form? It's not going to be, is there a course? It's really all of the additional bits. So this other view I just tacked on is where you can put, right, and you kind of decide your strategy of what does it take to put in front of those points of contact to have those strategic discussions. I'm actually with Ross. I wouldn't say this to many people that I don't really believe in QBRs, because I think QBRs are probably more of a let's sit down and have this session where I'm either going to start consulting you or chances are selling you. And clients get more and more primed to avoid those. So typically we see MSPs that just go, we did a QBR and it started off with the CEO and then it went to the VP and then it went to the chief intern, right? Or maybe they stopped picking up the phone. So our belief is that by putting this data inside the portal, enriching it with, let's say, endpoint data. Okay, cool. License data from 365. Okay. Down to like compliancy, right? So we have all this information. Can we show them a high level picture? You don't have to defend your work. The transparency is there. The portal is there to show them whatever they want, whenever, down to even the projects, right? Like we talked about before. If I want to see the projects in here, I should be able to see the projects in here and have that be my one-stop shop. So CloudRadial's mission, whatever way you want to approach it, is there's a laundry list of features not to be consumed like a buffet, but more like you can come in and do kind of whatever you want. So how do you want to best build what's good for your clients? So there's a lot of stuff in here that you can consume in multiple ways. But the bigger point is having a set framework that you can disseminate that you can push that out to clients, that you can kind of measure them in an equal way, gives you that digital first client experience. And again, helps you measure that accordingly across clients. And I think that's the biggest power of something like, again, TopLeft and CloudRadial, really any vendors that integrate it, because the clients, they don't care, right? They don't care where it's coming from or how it is. They just care about how easy is it to access? Can they understand it? Can they collaborate on it? If you can hit those markers, you're doing pretty well for yourself. So obviously CloudRadial can do a lot of that, but take a look at it. I don't want to monopolize too much on the call, but that's the gist. I think that's hopefully a little fair. There we go. That's my fast pitch.
Yeah, it's huge. I just look at the first button of like asking for a new user, a new computer. It's like getting the client to realize if they mention it, if there's a technician on site to set up or fix a printer and mentioning to him, oh yeah, we've got Sally starting this afternoon.
Right.
Like, it's a horrible process, right?
Yep.
They should be, no, oh yeah, I got to go in the portal and log it and submit all the info.
Yeah, and we don't allow our customers to submit a new user ticket without it. Like it's not even an optional. Like if someone calls, I've got someone starting urgently, great. Let's bring up the form. We can do it with you, but you are submitting the form.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, the amount of MSPs that still, not to their fault, just in general, they still have to contend with, even if you send an email and it contains everything but one critical piece of information, that's still all of a sudden a back and forth that could take however long, that extends it out, that costs time on both sides. So like inherently the value is really easy to understand, but having that platform that, again, it's not just about having a form, because you can have a form anywhere. It's how easy is it to access? How rich of data is it? So we ran into the dilemma ourselves. I know that CloudRadial, as an example, is a pretty big piece of software. But again, if you just do too little with something like this, then it's not really worth logging in, because they have to go out of their way. And you have to do, you kind of have to figure out, again, what your clients are asking for and how you can best serve that as scalably and sensically as possible. I think that's the secret.
Yeah. No, I love that vision of self-service, so some of the tickets don't even come to you because they can help themselves. And
Auto solved.
If they do need our help, it's like, let's get all the info so we can help you 100% the first time.
Right.
And then avoid a lot of meetings, like avoiding these project updates. Where's the project at? Well, go look at the board. All the notes are there. I don't know anything more than what's in your top left board.
Actually, I have a question for both of you guys. I think you guys are primed to answer this. Do you see, and the answer could be no, it's okay, I'm not baiting you for anything. Do you see clients today asking for anything that you're not delivering at? I mean, do you see like the cusp of, again, I'll just drop buzzword stuff, like any AI stuff. I mean, do you see clients going like, what about this? Or do you feel like you are leading the client into what you're expecting next for MSP and IT services in general?
Look, AI is probably an unusual, it's unusual in the sense that, like, you take cybersecurity, which is kind of the last major shift, or cloud, the one before it, those kinds of things, right? Which were we were having to talk to customers for years and convince them that cybersecurity is a thing. You're going to have to do something about it. Look at all this stuff. You're going to have, like, what are we doing next? And it wasn't until a lot has happened and major public incidents and all this kind of stuff, right? Where we kind of companies now, I think, generally take it seriously, right? So AI has been a bit different, right? Because it's the first interaction most people had with AI was what? Typing something into ChatGPT and and so it's coming from a different direction. And so I think it is one of those things where customers are actually talking to us about how do we get involved? Everyone wants to not be missing out. And so because it's so new though, our learning is probably only about a month in front of the customer. And that's quite different to some sort of previous technology shifts, I think. So we are doing a lot in that space. Customers do want more. We now have a software development sort of department or division within our business, because I think those lines typically in the past, which were, I'm an MSP, I don't do software, or it's blurry now. Like, what's software development? What's low code, no code? I can use integration with APIs. Like, I think that now will become fast forward 5 years, that's going to be table stakes for MSPs. If you're not doing that stuff, then if you're just doing infrastructure and user support still, like that's not going to be enough.
Right. How about you, Emma? Are you seeing anything specific? And it doesn't have to be AI, but like, are your clients asking for anything that is different than, say, 2-3 years ago? Have you noticed
Not really in either MSP. Some are, let's say with Crafty Penguins, we do Linux server hosting, and some are like, yeah, we want a private host. We don't want to be on OpenAI or
sure.
Claude or whatever, Anthropic. Like, we want our own infrastructure. Some are hosted in the cloud, but something we 100% control. So we're starting to deploy some of the LLM infrastructure there. In improving IT, our Windows MSP, we haven't gotten much traction with Copilot and such, as far as I know. And that's partly maybe the billing model in Canada, but just people seem to be getting to ChatGPT there and not so much Copilot. But I think there's so much possible there with AI agents and the automation, and sometimes just regular automation. It's just gotten a whole lot easier. It's called AI agent, and it's really, you don't need any AI in some of these agents. It's just workflow automation.
Sure.
I looked at N8N and looks fascinating. I'm like, wow, I could build a whole business around this. And it is a very different business model than your traditional managed services. Because you're getting into systems, data, APIs, business process, which very few MSPs get into. But I think that's where a lot of money is to be made. If you can have those conversations and build out that automation with AI, that's a very highly competitive niche thing to be in.
Well, I asked this question not again to take it a different direction, but what inevitably ends up happening, and I like the fact that we're talking about it, is that a lot of MSPs that get stuck on, let's say, the traditional discussions with the clients, looking at it very unilaterally, right? We're talking about service delivery. We're talking about, is your computer working? We're talking about this, right? It's not necessarily, I mean, obviously, yeah, there's MSPs that are doing more advanced stuff, or they're talking about, yes, how do we integrate AI into it? It's not that you have to do that, but if you get stuck talking about just the mechanics, like the day-to-day stuff, and you're talking about like the very boring, the very process things that should just kind of be in the background, you miss the opportunities to listen to lucrative things and or more helpful things, more consultative things that I think MSPs that we're seeing again on our side, on our own client side, they're growing their services, right? It still includes managed services, it still includes managed security and projects and whatnot, but now it's also including like, how are you going to navigate, downturn? How are you going to scale, yourself? How are you going to prevent a hire of another person by implementing whatever tool? What tools do you use, right? And that's not a conversation you can really have in a free time if you set a 30-minute meeting once every 3 months and go, please tell me everything. That's why I bring this up, because we want to free you up. I think a lot of the self-service capabilities of both things put you in the position to say, that's handled. What else? What else can we talk? How else can we help you, right?
Yeah, because if you've got a bunch of tickets that are stuck and not moving or gone bad, like, you're going to meet that's all the conversation is going to be consumed by, right? Like, so you have to remove that noise so you can have the conversation. And with the ability for us to do a lot more with AI and automation now, I think we're actually able to have, like you said, way better conversation with customers. We're genuinely now actually able to help them with their business, whereas before was patching their SQL Server, like really helping them with their business. Like, not like that's what we call coming out and being proactive is. That's not proactive in the mind of a customer, right? Like that's just like, okay, whatever, I don't care. And just because Microsoft says something doesn't that the best practice, we have to do it, right? But now we're actually able to talk to them about helping their business. I think it's way different. Like we've been wanting to do it for years. Now it's a reality.
Yeah. So I recorded a podcast with Dave Sobel from the MSP radio show.
Yeah.
He talks a ton about this, is just feeling the pressure. Like if you don't get into this area around like helping the clients to be more efficient and those things, like you're dead. Like you've got to be getting into that area. So yeah, listen to David on that. I think he's right on the money with that.
I want to ask a question that popped up. I want to make sure we have time to answer it from Joshua Smith for Ross specifically. When you moved away from QBRs, did you find that the customers were engaged more? And if so, what kind of approach did you take? Is this like a weekly, monthly, as needed site visits? Like what does that look like in a post-traditional QBR world?
So we still have what we call it a monthly operations meeting, and we specifically call it operations meeting. So that's the place where we run through. There's a bit of an agenda. We run through everything from the opportunities that exist on both sides of the table, what's going on, updates. It's looking at the account management board and making sure things are moving, all that kind of stuff. So we have the TAM and the customer will run a monthly operations meeting. For some larger customers, we also run a weekly service delivery meeting. That's generally not the TAM. It's usually one level down in sort of larger customers. So we have a weekly cycle, and that's tickets. If we can get more of that stuff dealt with there, then the monthly operations meeting can become more of a business chat, and don't have to worry about the noise. Part of the monthly operations meeting agenda is reviewing because we're reviewing the board, anything that's in that roadmap that typically you would have dealt with in a QBR should just be a card on the board, right? It should just be something we either deciding to move now or not, or it's being parked, it's put in a different column on the board. So yeah, that monthly operations meeting cadence works pretty well, and it's just part of the agenda. It's not a separate thing. We do try to still have quarterly where like a general manager or someone else will go along with the TAM as well, where they might have just to add some extra value, or they might bring like one of the consulting team, or they might bring someone from the security team. So we choose time once a quarter to try and mix it up a little bit, because one of the things you don't want to do is turn a meeting kind of rhythm into something that's just same old. Like you almost got to intentionally mix it up and make it new and make it fresh, because otherwise you just fall into kind of a boring habit, and it's like, I don't know, people just start tuning out.
Yeah, honestly, that's a great question, because I think it's easy. And again, I'm guilty of this as a vendor myself, of saying like, oh, kill the QBR. And then people like and replace it with what? Like, how do I have that good connection? I think that's a fair question of like, what does it look like to have a relationship? And again, from my perspective, I think from our perspective, it's, again, focus on more than just service. Again, try to handle that stuff. Because again, I work with so many MSPs that is what they do. And I get that. That's what it was built off of. But moving on and having that interesting conversation is okay. You don't necessarily need a template, because again, chances are you're not going to have a templated canned answer for every business you work with, because they're different too, right? There's not going to be a one size fits all for all these people. That's part of the partnership consultation and everything that I think MSPs strive to get to. Coincidentally, again, the stickiest. If you can do that, it's hard to get rid of a partner versus somebody who just takes care of the patching.
And look, one of the best things in terms of using TopLeft as that account management board is, if the TAM or the customer wants to chat about something next time they're going to catch up, they just chuck a card in the new column and it's ready to talk about. It just enables it to be a much more organic thing, instead of, it's a lot easier to bring up something you want the customer to do if it's just another card on the board.
Do you find that, especially with the collaboration bit, that now people are more engaged because they're collaborating rather than a lecture? It's something that's like, what are we doing together? What are we doing for you? How do we keep each other accountable?
Yeah, and look, there's going to be a spectrum on the customer side as the people that really engage, and those that kind of still just, it's IT something that they have to do in their spare time. But yeah, look, we can get through a lot more, and we can it's rare now that, years ago you used to do your big project every 3 years, or like it's continual. Like, what are we doing this month? What are we doing this month? What are we doing this month? There's always just going to be continual. There's always something to tick off, right? So, yeah, I've look, definitely happy with the progress. And there's always more you can do, but happy with where it's at.
Yep.
Great.
Okay. I think that's a great place to leave that. This has been wonderful, Rich. Lots of insights in there. Thankful to everyone for being here, and to Ricky and especially Ross for sharing, and really open book there. So this was great. So we'll be sending out the recording. Thanks everyone for being here, and have a great afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you're at. So
That's right.
we're all over the world. So just fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep. Thank you.